Welcome back to another episode of Iron Therapy. Of course, I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined, as always, by RX Muscle's staff psychotherapist, Lesley Timbol, who is in the midst of contest prep. She'll be competing in what is it now, 3 weeks before the Olympia?
15 days.
15 days, wow. Now you're doing the Amateur Olympia. What day is that occurring on?
So the women are December 13th, which is on a Tuesday.
Oh, wow. They're really starting early. Holy mackerel. Mm-hmm. Talk about a true week-long show, huh?
It is, yeah.
So you're getting there. Oh, you're in Vegas, so you don't have to travel at all. But
right, yeah.
When do they weigh you in or height you in or whatever it is?
Height you in is just the day before, just at the athlete meeting, so on the 12th. Right. Yeah.
So that's fun. Are you ready? You look like you are in your face.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Just doing some fine-tuning at this point.
You got like I always say, the skull head going on. You know, that's always a good. That means you're suffering. You know, I see people who are like a week out from a show and they got these big puffy cheeks, and I'm like, oh boy, they're not going to make it. You know.
Yeah. So if I fall asleep, don't take it personally.
Yeah. You know, it takes a certain kind of a masochist. I fit that category too. So don't take this as an insult to actually diet through the holidays. You know. A lot of people can't handle it, like going through Thanksgiving and Christmas and all that stuff. I've done it before. It doesn't bother me at all, really. But how did you handle Thanksgiving?
It was easy for me. I actually did Christmas before. I found Christmas was harder than Thanksgiving. But no, Thanksgiving was easy for me. It also helps that, you know, I'm away from my family. So it's kind of like I don't have the temptations either. Well,
you're Canadian, so you don't really have our Thanksgiving, but you are in the United States now. So technically everyone was at Thanksgiving. So like everything's closed and, you know, I guess Vegas never closes. But what'd you do? Just stay home?
I just stayed home. I just did the same thing. Same thing every day.
Was Dragon's Lair open on Thanksgiving?
It was. They had shortened hours, but I made sure I was there at the in the morning. Before it closed. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, the good thing was Bev Francis Powerhouse Gym, Steve Weinberger and Bev's place, they never closed either on the holiday. So I don't know what it was. For some reason I liked training on the holiday. I don't know why. I mean, I could have timed my off day, right, for Thanksgiving or Christmas, but for some reason I just enjoyed going there. I don't know what it was. I guess there was a lot of people there. I was shocked, matter of fact, how many people would go because they probably felt guilty. They wanted to work out before they stuffed their face or something. You know?
Well, part of it's also just to pass time because not everyone has family members.
True.
This is not the time of the year that's necessarily the merriest time of the year for many people. Sometimes it's the worst time of the year. This is my busiest time as a therapist.
Yeah. When I used to date Colette, and we would go to like I'm thinking Christmas, but same type of thing. We would go to Michigan where her parents lived, and it was always freezing cold. There was snow on the ground. It was usually snowing because they don't stop in Michigan if they don't care about snow. And it was a little creepy, you know. And we would leave your relative's house and we would go to the movies, you know, because it was like almost like a depressing type of. And I understand now why people can get depressed on the holidays, especially if you're alone.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, what am I going to do? No one's around. There's nothing open. It's like you're desolate, and so. That's today's topic, you know, of the show, you know, depression around the holidays and what tools can you employ? And obviously this is where your expertise comes in to get you through the tough times where you might think about, oh, my mother's not here anymore. I lost my brother or my wife or my girlfriend died. And this is the time of year that I think about it and I get depressed. And then if the weather's cold and it exacerbates, it makes it even worse. What suggestions can you make for people who get seasonal depression or even holiday depression for that matter?
Well, there's two parts of it, Dave. I don't want people to necessarily bury their feelings. I think it is important to process the feelings, but not dwell on them. So process the feelings. If they're able to do it on their own in a healthy way, great. If they don't, connect with someone that they can trust. It could be a family member. It can be a friend. It could be a professional counselor like myself to be able to process what's going on and then be able to transition from that. Because a lot of times I used to work in a palliative care unit, actually at 2 hospitals. And one of the things that all my dying clients were saying is, I don't want my loved ones to remember me like this. I want them to be able to enjoy their lives.
Yeah.
You know, and to be able to say, you know, you can miss someone and still enjoy your life. Give yourself that permission because sometimes we feel guilty to saying, if this is the first, let's say, Christmas without someone that you really care about and loved, that you're not supposed to be happy. That's actually a myth. Even though in our mind we kind of know it, we almost feel guilty if we have fun. And this isn't necessarily just at Christmas. It's usually the first year of everything. But, it's about saying you are allowed to have fun. You are allowed to, partake in certain activities if you want to. Now, you might want to be alone. But again, if you're going to be alone on the holidays, make sure you have a plan. Because if you don't have a plan, like everything else, you plan to fail. And the plan could be, okay, do you want to watch some type of Netflix saga, as far as like back-to-back shows? Do you want to invite someone over at some point? If you have a dog, or, do you want to take your dog for a walk? It would be good to stretch your legs, by the way, and get out of your face, and get a little bit of exercise. So whether your gym is open or not, exercise would be good. It's not just good physically, but it's also good mentally as well as for digestion and a whole bunch of other reasons. But having a plan as far as what are you going to do during the holiday? Now, I don't mean it has to be planned hour by hour, but kind of have a gist of the things that you want to do. First, I have some clients that are going to do some deep cleaning on not necessarily the entire place, but they might say, okay, my garage, I haven't touched my garage in, 2 years. I want to start it. Okay. Have little projects that you do, or something that's fun. Like I said, watch movies, you can get your nails done, whatever, but have something in place. And be careful not to fall into the trap of using your emotions and going and spending like crazy. Because right now there's this compulsive shopping thing that goes on, especially with now there's Cyber Monday sales.
Unless you're buying Species nutrition products, and then spend as much as you can spend. Yeah.
Well, I just put in my order, and Amanda was great. Like, I got my hoodie on order, so I can't wait for my hoodie. So I've got my order in.
We got a free pumpkin spice ice slice today.
Yes.
Although probably when people watch the show, maybe it might be done, but it's all day Monday. If you spend $60 or more, and Cyber 25, you get 25% off the whole website.
What's the flavor like? The pumpkin spice?
It's the best. I can't even tell you. I love it so much that I have to stop myself from drinking it too much, because then I don't eat food all day long. It's literally every time we order because we don't stock everything here. We have a warehouse in New York, so I'll order like a case. I'll have her order me a case, and then it's gone in like 2 days, because like I drink it, then my kids start drinking it. You would swear it has sugar in it. I'm telling you, if you got a tub of it like while you're dieting, you'll absolutely say to me, Dave, promise me that you're not that this has no sugar on it. That's how good it is. Telling you.
Are you going to be like
pumpkin spice though? And if you don't like that flavor, you might not like it. But
can you carry that through the holidays? That flavor?
We do. We now have it year round because it's a very popular flavor. But what happens is people forget about it. Like I have to remind people about it around the holidays, because we have a lot of flavors. So then people find the one flavor that they love. Like everyone's into coffee now. We sell a ton of coffee, because it has caffeine in it, and because it's real coffee in there, and so everyone's into the coffee thing now. And of course, vanilla and chocolate always sell. And then I'll get people hooked on pumpkin spice. They'll use that. And then I'll get them hooked on cinnamon donut, because we're starting the due dates on the stuff start coming up. I'll do a sale and everyone will buy it. And they're like, oh, this is great. And then they'll just use that all year round, So
right.
It's funny.
That's
but
a good
right. People can start, upset, indulging their buying. I'll tell you what I've done. First of all, my wife, it's funny you mentioned cleaning. My wife power washed the whole house yesterday. She got into this and it wasn't because she was depressed or anything. She just, it's holidays. Sometimes, you have a little downtime. So, and I fell back into an old habit that I might have to go to some kind of a group session to get off of it, because I promised myself, I think it was like about 20 years ago, that I wouldn't play video games, because I get obsessed with these like adventure games, and the technology is like 1,000 times better now.
Yes.
So I don't even know. I think my son downloaded this game to my computer, and he was playing it. And I'm like, oh, he's like, Dad, why don't you take a try? I'm like, I don't want to play it. I don't want to play it. I'm trying. I don't even want to know about it. So I sat down and I started playing it, and I got completely engrossed in this game, and I'm completely obsessed with it. Now I taught the kids how to play it. Like, so my wife's outside power washing, and all the kids and I are like fiends, like we're like heroin addicts, like playing this game, screaming and yelling and cheering and high-fiving each other, which is nice to do with your kids. The problem is the kids went to school today and I'm still playing the game, when I'm supposed to be working. So
right.
So you can get a little too engrossed, but the point is keep yourself busy. And I think that's a very good advice you give to people, because I think what happens is people sit around, they start feeling sorry for themselves. They start thinking about all the people that aren't there. Mm-hmm. They might have a few alcoholic drinks to try to numb themselves a little bit, which makes them even more melancholy usually, because then they get emotional.
Yeah.
And, people do dumb things, and they make bad decisions. I don't know. I didn't know him personally, but a lot of people have probably heard by now that this Eric, the trainer guy, who has trained a lot of celebrities, he's originally from, the area, the tri-state area. He started working out, I believe, at Gold's in New Haven. And a lot of people knew him. I saw Jay Cutler posted, Phil Heath posted. The poor guy killed himself. He had a wife and a kid, and he was only 37 years old.
When someone's that young, and when you look at it from the outside to say, how could someone commit suicide when they had all this going for them? What they don't know is that a lot of times you don't know what's going on the inside.
Right.
And for someone to have that kind of preconceived, like it's a plan, when someone is suicidal or commits suicide, this is something that they've thought about for quite some time. They've thought about how they were going to do it. And another kind of misconception is the thought that, well, didn't he care about the people around him, like his family?
Right.
He must have realized that would have affected them. But for people who commit suicide, they're in such a low mental state, Dave, that they think that they're doing their family a favor.
Right.
No, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying that's their perception.
Yeah. The weird thing is, even Jay Cutler posted here, I see, he wrote, terrible news. He brought so much positivity to everyone. RIP, which is interesting that someone who would be so depressed would be able to bring so much joy and, positive energy to other people, but yet they can't even enjoy it themselves, because I get joy from helping other people. When I do a lot of things for people, I actually feel better about myself. Usually that helps,
It can, but the problem is if they don't feel like they're doing enough. And again, this is a perception thing. I mean, in a different light, look at bodybuilders. You can have especially getting for the Olympia, they look fantastic. They look in the mirror and they say, I look like shit. So, I mean, the idea between reality and our perception can be very, very different.
Right. But you could say I look like shit looking in the mirror, but you don't go home and then, put a
gun
to
your head. Pull your head off. Right. But in his mind, either he didn't help enough people. There was something going on internally. We don't know what that is, or it hasn't been shared, or maybe we don't know. We'll never know.
Right.
Which is really, really sad when you get people that are trying to do good in this world and then they take their lives. And, that has such a reverberating effect because, he won't be the only one, especially with the holidays. A lot more people, and I'm not saying suicide doesn't happen other times of the year, but holidays are a classic time people do take their lives because the emotions are so high, especially during the holidays.
Why is it always the most talented individuals are the craziest? Like in terms of like they're so unhappy, and then they're like, it's like they're up and they're at this level or they're at this level. There's like no in the middle. Like
extreme.
They can't find that middle area where they just feel good. They either have to overdo everything and be super successful, and then come crashing down and do self-destructive things.
A lot of times it's unrealistic expectations, and it can occur with a lot of perfectionists. Because when you're talking about, and I'm not saying all perfectionists are like this, or all perfectionists are going to ultimately commit suicide. That's not the case. But I'm saying a lot of times the trend in the mental health standpoint from I'm not doing good enough, regardless of what the reality is, again, it's that perception, and that often can drive someone to do better, but it can be very discouraging if they're not getting the results that they want.
Right.
I mean, COVID was a great example of it cramping down everyone's style and not being able to do things. Yes, suicide rates went up, of course.
Right.
That's not surprising. Now that we're kind of out of COVID, more or less,
right.
Except if you're in Canada. But I mean, more or less, when you're out of it, there's still repercussions of it.
Leslie, I'm the kind of guy, but this is what I don't understand. I'm the kind of guy, if you lock me in a dungeon someplace, I would train the mouse that was running around there. Right. And I would create a circus with this mouse, and then he would bring friends, and I'd have a breeding project going on like that. Like I could find something to do no matter where you put me, as crazy as it sounds, because I have a creatively thinking mind. And I always wonder why people when they do have limitation, maybe they hurt themselves or they had an accident or maybe just they lost someone. There's always something you can do to find something that's going to change the way you think about things, rather than the wallow in something that is not good for you. It's one thing to have some acute sadness, initially, right? And I'm probably guilty of not, immersing myself in my emotions enough. I kind of block them out a little bit, but I always find a way to creatively find an outlet for them. And I just wonder why people, especially very highly talented people like Eric, couldn't do that.
So believe it or not, Dave, there are people out there, despite their level of intelligence, they don't have high self-esteem. Mm-hmm. Now, when I say high self-esteem, I don't mean being arrogant. I mean having more confidence and feeling good about themselves. Mm-hmm. Because again, it's that I'm not enough. It's that fear that if people really get to know them, they won't like the person that they really are, or that they're fakes. They're not fakes, but again, it's a perception thing. Sure. And it's the messages that they feed themselves. So no matter how much you can tell someone, that they're a great person, that they've done so much for society, and they hear all these positive things, it's almost like it goes in one ear and out the other, because they're not
they're delusional in a sense, right?
Well, they're blocking it. They're purposely putting a block between any kind of positive feedback and their perceptions of who they are.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that we could say probably the same thing happened with Luke Sandow, when we lost him, very similar situation. If someone is feeling in despair like that, would they ever go to seek help like someone like you? I mean, or are these people just too far gone? I mean, what do you do? Let's say you've identified someone in your family or a friend of yours that is in severe, deep depression and despair. How do you help them if they don't let you help them,
Well, first of all, you have to talk to them and basically call them out. Say, hey, look, I've noticed lately that you seem really down, you're really quiet, or you're withdrawn, whatever the behavior is that you've noticed that's changed. Call them out on it. Because one of the myths about people who, if you're concerned about a family member or friend who might be severely depressed and potentially suicidal, is they think that they're worried that if they ask their friend or family member, have you thought about committing suicide or hurting yourself? They're actually putting that thought into their heads.
Right.
That's not true. That person had it in their thoughts before. You're not putting that.
Or that maybe they're going to be insulted and not want to talk to them anymore. People might think that too.
And they can, and it depends on what stage they're at. Because if someone doesn't want help, you can't help them unless you do, let's say, we do these, I call them family, but it doesn't have to be necessarily family, it can be friends, where we do, a kind of intervention.
Gotcha.
Just saying, look, we're really concerned about you, and trying to connect them with resources, and ideally have one of the resources, whether it be like some of them myself, but a professional, to kind of bridge them to get that support in that introduction, and have that conversation going. Because if you're not trained, it's a very uncomfortable situation, and you could make things worse potentially, depending on how you're handling it. But if you're there and you help them get there, and when in doubt, take them to the emergency. Call 988. 988 is a national hotline for, where they can actually connect with someone 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they can talk to somebody. Sometimes it only takes a few moments for when they're riding that, like when they hit that really low part, to get them up to not necessarily a happy mode, but a more safer mode mentally, so that temporarily some damage control can be done, and then they can be bridged to more longer term resources.
Right. Because it's not like you can't get these people like Baker active, because most people in that state are just quiet. They're just not even talking. They're not like running around like lunatics jumping off of roofs or out of windows like we know who. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If anything, they become, you don't hear from them anymore.
Now, yeah.
Yeah.
Because people that do crazy shit like that are really just asking for help. They're not really suicidal. They just want they want someone to acknowledge the fact that they're out of control and they don't feel, good about themselves.
For the most part, yes, but you get those people who like the drama and they want to go out on a big bang. So they don't care. So when in doubt, you know what? Call 988. Mm-hmm. You can call 911, but 988 would be the better number, because it's really focused on getting people that support when they're suicidal.
Sure. Well, it's very good advice, especially around the holidays. And, you know, if any of you guys out there watching this feel that way, you can always contact Lesley. You can contact me too. I mean, I talk to I'll talk to anyone at any time, especially if you're feeling suicidal and stuff like that, or something is just, you're that depressed. It's, you know, we're all iron brothers and sisters. We're all in this together. And, you know, I don't want to see anyone hurt themselves, you know, especially because they're just feeling down, you know, because it's Christmas time or it's Thanksgiving time or whatever the case may be. We've all been there, so we all got to lift each other up. And I think that's the best advice I can give people. And of course, you know, we're going to discuss on a future show what it's like having that post-competition depression, because that's a very real phenomenon too that I see with a lot of people. They just get super depressed after the show. It's like they don't know what to do or where to direct their energy. And there's a lot of tools that we can talk about that you can use and employ to help get you past that post-show blues, as we call it. All right, Les, 15 more days. Are we going to get a show in next week, you think?
Yeah, I think we can do one more week before the show. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to do Olympia week because it's going to be too busy anyway with all the coverage. We have our whole crew going out to Vegas. I'm sure you'll meet up with Jimmy and Lee and all the lunatics.
Yeah, I look
actually, you know, Lee. Speaking of Lee actually, you know, I had told Lee about Eric the trainer, and I had read that Eric was on the committee to choose who was going into the Muscle Beach Hall of Fame. And of course, we all know that Lee was the last inductee, at least for now, because they ran out of room over there. So I was wondering if he knew Eric, and he's like, yeah, you know, it's funny because when I got inducted, I had breakfast with him that morning. This was several months ago. And he seemed like a really nice guy, you know, and at least said he had no idea that there was no like indication that this guy had any, you know, he was a happy guy, very motivating, and, you know, they had a good breakfast and that was it. So this guy must have been dealing with a lot of internal pain that he just wasn't letting out to anyone else, you know.
Well, comedians are especially known for that too, Dave. So you would never think, you know, look at Robin Williams. I mean, there's so many of them as far as,
Freddie Prinze Jr. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You never know what's going on in the inside. So just be kind to everybody, guys.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Good advice from a very smart woman who is going to be competing in less than 15 days. For now, we're out of time. I'm Dave Palumbo with Lesley Timbol. We'll see you again next time.
Take care, guys.